I am alone with my son, by myself, a woman, and a male approached me in a parking lot. He's, "Excuse me, miss," and I don't know why in the hell he was approaching me or what he was trying to do. And before he was probably 30 feet from me when he said, "Excuse me, ma'am." And I turned around and I literally yelled at him and I said, "Do not approach me. No male should ever approach a woman in a parking lot, ever."
I am a 6'1", 245-pound black man. When somebody approaches me, I put my guard up.
Absolutely.
Like I went to Phillips Plaza and I had the world's smallest like Louis Vuitton bag. If you know anything about that area, like people have been getting shot in broad daylight in the parking lot of like Lennox. Okay. Like that's what's happened. Somebody approached me. I was on my guard. So I get that. I think that women should 100% be on their guard. And I'm saying that as a person who is, as a male, on his guard when people approach him in parking lots, broad daylight or not.
You might not be on that same level of guard in a parking lot in a different city or in a different town, or, you know,
or if I didn't have the bag, you know what I mean? Like
or if you didn't have the bag.
Yeah.
But women always got the bag on them, you know what I mean? So that's...
It's a red flag.
There's vastly different weather across the United States. We have temperate rainforests in the United States.
You know, when it comes to weather,
that's the thing that Europe doesn't even have. But my whole point is,
we're talking weather.
My whole point is like there are vast swaths of the state that I'm in where they don't have internet, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's that different. It's like a different fucking world.
Yeah, I've been to Monticello, Georgia, and dead ass felt like I stepped back into like very close to post-slavery.
Yeah, Now I saw somebody say that sundown towns still exist. I saw a dude making posts about that, and I was like, I mean, you kind of like when you visit family that's in the country, you can kind of start to get like, there's a different energy of what's going on here, but you don't fully see it because you're with your people or whatever, and you don't fully. But there's just a tone there. But he was like, "Yeah, I'm a city slicker. I was traveling through some place. I needed directions. Went to a gas station, and the attendant, like, not even on some aggressive shit. She was like, you must not be from around here." He was like, "Oh no." He's like, "Well, look, you probably want to get going before the sun sets because this is a sundown town." And he was like, "Oh, what the fuck?" And it wasn't even like a threat. It was like a warning.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's real, but.
That's some wild shit. Like, what the fuck makes you think you have the right to like murder and cause harm to just a person of color just because they're in your town or passing through your town after night in this day and age, especially? Like,
you can get away with
it. The fuck? Yeah, exactly. I get because like they can get away with it, like because the law enforcement is them on it too. Yeah. So
they the ones pulling people over. So
yeah, for real, human beings are fucking wicked or can be wicked.
No, extremely wicked. When you see some of these true crime shits or just like historical shit, or as we just said, current shit, man, the shit that human beings are willing to do to each other is just fucking ridiculous. But yeah, let's get into the podcast real quick, just on a nice little light note there. Welcome everybody to Waving the Red Flag, the #1 dating and human depravity podcast in the universe. It's your boy Eddie, joined today by my two illustrious co-hosts. We got Josh, we got AB. You know what I'm saying? Let's get into some topics.
He's back. AB signifier.
AB start the fire.
We didn't start the fire.
Start the fire. AB did.
The fire started.
All the nations was getting along well until AB attacked.
Yo, okay, real quick. Which nation do y'all think y'all would belong to?
Probably fire.
I can see that.
What do you think? You would be Earth. What do you think I would be? You would be Earth, though, I would say.
I feel like I'd be water, but
nah.
I'd say either be earth or fire, but I feel like I would be water. I'd be in the water tribe.
Okay. Oh, wait, Alvin would also be fire, I think.
Alvin would be
fire
earth.
Or earth. I was going to say earth, but I think I'm basing that off of his physical stature, not his mental state. I think physically he looks earthbendery, but when I think about his mentality, I think firebender.
I still think I got to give it Earth. I think Alvin AB would be 100% Earth, like even off of his groundedness and logic. Boom, boom, boom.
But are Earthbenders particularly logical? Is that, you know what I mean?
What Earth represents, so to be grounded.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what that seems like it could mean a lot of different things.
It could,
because he strikes me as like an Uncle Iroh type, low key almost. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could see him as like a firebender, like, you know.
Every nation got an Uncle Iroh.
That's also a very good point. That's also a very good point.
What do you think, AB? Like, what tribe would you put yourself in?
Probably Earth.
Okay. Well, there you go. Y'all both wrong. Cool.
It did still sound like we was wrong.
It happens.
Even when you're right, you're wrong. Never let them know your next move.
All right. Let's see what we got. Oh, yo, did y'all see that video of that lady in her car talking about a dude approaching her in the parking lot?
Which one?
No.
There's like 40 of those. Like those get posted like
The one that was included in
by the dozens.
topics. Like,
You had to that didn't it linked to the wrong place.
oh shit, did it? Oh damn, you right, bro. I literally just linked to a
I know
rant.
this nigga trying to. Well, the one
looking
that was
at the
in the
thing.
topics.
Yo,
the one
no,
that was
but
in the topics.
But
Right.
wait, Alvin, did you attempt to open this link though?
Yes, I attempted to open every link.
Okay, cool. Because
And they
I'm looking
don't-
at the link that I listed, and this shit is just hilarious. I was doing a whole other task, and
clearly,
just included
clearly.
it.
I felt like I was peeping in on some shit I wasn't supposed to see yet.
Oh shit, that's hilarious. Yeah,
But no,
Man,
oddly enough,
I'd be
though-
so terrible at cheating, bro. Oh my god, like when people accidentally like text the wrong group chat or the wrong person a chat that they were talking to somebody else. I feel like I do that shit all the time.
I don't think you
but
care.
then backpedal. Yeah, but I backpedal and like
You just
like,
you just
no, that
strike
was
me as
meant for
like of course I'm talking to other women. What did you expect?
No, that is true. That is
Exactly,
actually just a
like-
fact.
like-
But that's not cheating. we got to go together to be cheating. The woman was in her car.
I'm literally shaking right now because I just had a man approach me in a parking lot and it went fine. And I'm going to tell you why it went fine and how to address it, because it was in a book I read and this is how you're supposed to address it, but it scared me. I'm literally shaking. So this guy, I am alone with my son, by myself, a woman, and a male approached me in a parking lot. He's, "Excuse me, miss," and I don't know why in the hell he was approaching me or what he was trying to do. And before he was probably 30 feet from me when he said, "Excuse me, ma'am." And I turned around and I literally yelled at him and I said, "Do not approach me." And he and I say, "You do not approach women in a parking lot." I just kept saying, "Do not approach me. You do not approach women in a parking lot," like yelling it. No male should ever approach a woman in a parking lot. Ever. No male should ever approach a woman in a parking lot. And if a male does approach you, you need to turn around and use the strongest voice that you can possibly use with them. Don't be polite. They need to literally screw off. No male should be approaching you in a parking lot.
A dude just came up to her in the parking lot and was like, "Hey, excuse me." And she said she turned to him and said, "Do not talk to me. Do not approach me. Get away from me." Like top of her lungs, yelled, "Get away from me. Get away from me." Type, like escalate.
That's my purse. I don't know you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Dude scurried off, and she was like, "Don't approach women in parking lots." Da, da, da. Now, mind you, crowded parking lot, broad daylight, and she was like flustered, like hand was shaking, like just recounting the event, blah, blah, blah. What do y'all think? Yeah.
She been through some
I'll
shit.
try.
I think she probably been through some shit.
Maybe, yeah.
Because most women have been through some shit.
That's what I was
when it
going to
comes
say,
to
yeah.
that. So, like some PTSD, because like that reaction just based off of, "Excuse me, hey, excuse me." It seems to be inflated for what the situation could have called for. But at the same time, if you're a woman, I get it. If it would have been some shit, that's how a lot of people do get snatched up. It's a quick, "Hey, excuse me, hey, can I just get real quick, close to you real quick?" And then just, you're in the back of a fucking white van next thing you know. So.
That's exactly what the fuck I'm thinking. Like, that's how every true crime podcast, He came up to her and asked if she knew the time, and the next time she woke up, it was the next day, in like the back of a van or whatever. It's like, yeah, that's really what happened. So I get it, but I'm like, oh fuck, I get it, because I'm like, she seemed scared and flustered, and it's like people get snatched up, but I'm like, at the same time, and I don't know if this even opposes this view, but like, where do we go from there? You know what I'm saying? Like, just on some like building society and connection thing. Like, how do you? Maybe this is too like old school, like hospitality, like Southern, leave your door unlocked type thinking. Where I'm just like, you can't say hello to your neighbor. You know what I'm saying? Like, once we're in a world where it's like it's unacceptable to go, "Hey, how's it going? Have a good one." "Yeah, no worries. Do you need help with your thing?" Or like, do you need help across the road? Or, "Hey, do you have the time?" Or, "Oh, love that sports team." It's like when everybody's that afraid of each other, it's like, God damn. But I get it too. But
I want to start off by saying, when somebody approaches me, I am a 6'1", 245-pound black man. When somebody approaches me, I put my
let 'em
guard
know.
up. I put my guard
Yeah,
up.
absolutely.
Like I went to Phillips Plaza. This was a few months ago, and I had the world's smallest like Louis Vuitton bag because I bought a wallet for myself or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Lord.
if you
Like
know
so
anything
hard to
about
sit.
that area, like people have been getting shot in broad daylight in the parking lot of like Lennox.
Okay.
Like that's what's
Okay.
happened. Somebody approached me, like I was on my guard, so I get that. What I want to say is that I think that a lot of time when we have these conversations, we over-index on these individual
course.
TikToks from individual people, and then we say like, "What's wrong with society?"
Yeah.
From that perspective, most interactions in that realm are completely normal. They are people that are naturally and realistically, in a situation where they should be on their guard, but nobody's like screaming at you that you shouldn't approach them in what you call it. If you say
Right.
hey to somebody, like usually that's fine on both sides. It's usually, it's usually not malicious intent from somebody that's saying hi. It's usually not received as malicious intent from somebody that's receiving the hi. So I don't want to over index on this thing that doesn't happen most of the time. Like the vast majority of interactions don't play out like that. But I do want to say that like I think that women should 100% be on their guard, and I'm saying that as a person who is as a male on his guard when people approach him in parking lots, broad daylight or not, quote unquote safe neighborhood or not.
Yeah.
One, I don't think it's an over index to talk about the extremes, but also I want to try and make a minor distinction here. It's not about like, oh, every woman is going to treat every approach as if the motherfucker's a serial killer and oh, woe is me. It's not that. It's if we collectively as a society said, oh, her response is a bit extreme, then cool, what you're saying makes sense because we're not indexing the incident. We're indexing what it says about the nature of this interaction and what should be normal. But if we say, yeah, no, it's pretty reasonable if a strange man approaches a woman at a parking lot to ask her the time or something arguably potentially innocuous, and she screams at him, getting the entire parking lot's attention to get away from her. If we go, yeah, that's a normal and acceptable way to respond. He shouldn't have approached her in the parking lot. That was socially unacceptable, which maybe we are arguing. That's fine.
I'm not.
That's what's being indexed, not her individual behavior. It's the response to where that exists in what's normal. That's what the whole discussion is. Because we all agree that it's like rare.
Yeah.
That's why it even went viral.
Yeah. So I will say that I don't think it's good to index on the extremes. I think indexing on the extremes, meaning that like you're having a conversation as if the extremes are more prevalent than what they are, is harmful. But I don't think that's what you're doing. I think it's very good to have a conversation about the extremes because, again, the extremes go viral, which means that they're in the forefront of the zeitgeist. Like, I'm thinking about it, you're thinking about it, Josh is thinking about it. Cool, perfect. I think that, because I saw that tweet when it first made it to Twitter, I don't think that we have a situation where everybody was like, oh yeah, like that was like the world's most normal thing in the world to do. Like there were a lot of people saying, which I actually would push back on, saying that she was super overreacting, saying
That's
that
true.
she
That's
was
true.
saying that like if she was so afraid, why did she stop and film a TikTok? There were a lot of people bringing up her other TikToks, saying how like, oh, well, she clearly does want attention because she was craving attention in supermarkets and in previous things. I think that's the wrong way to do about it. But like, if we're having the conversation about what society's indexing on and what that says about society, I think society was more along the lines of that what
She's
she was
tripping.
doing was tripping. I think that what we
Okay.
should start is, as I stated before, I think it's fine for people to be on their guard. Like stuff happens. Like I'm always on my guard. But
On your
I
guard
also
is
think
different because I've argued
Yeah.
that as well. There's levels to guard.
I agree. 100% guards. But I also think that what Josh said was especially poignant. Like I think that we should have space to have the discussion about what has happened to this woman in the past that leads her to that sort of space, right?
True.
Like I don't think I saw a lot of people in any significant amount saying like, well, has she been attacked before? Like, is she dealing with a PTSD response? Like, does she have something going on that makes that feel like more visceral?
I think that felt gaslighted to me a little bit. Like the reason that I didn't go there, and I'm not saying that it is, so like I'm not saying that to anybody who went there, but I was like, I want to just assess the legitimacy of her response on its face, because maybe she hasn't been, because I don't know, something about like, oh, what has she been through to make her respond like that? It's like the stats are not in her favor. If she just had a reasonable look at like the situations where that can end up with her dead or attacked or hit on or whatever, and was like, I don't want that. Can I engage with what she did and just say, is this a reasonable thing on its face, without trying to like delve into like, who hurt you? That's why I was resistant to like putting it on her like that.
Under all things normal, like that's not a normal response.
It's a rare one.
Yeah, it's a rare response, but it's not like I was saying, like under most interactions, that wouldn't be a normal response. So that's why immediately I'm like, okay, if this is a genuine reaction, if you have genuine fear and terror and you're not just looking for attention, what happened to you before? Or are you chronically online? Are you actually not actually interacting with like men who are cool? Like, you know,
and I think the stats are in the favor. The stats are in the favor of asking that question, right? Because as you stated, the stats are in the favor of those interactions going negatively. So she could be responding to past stimuli. Like, I don't think that that's like outside of the realm of questioning, not asserting. Like, I wouldn't like. I think gaslighting would be like if I looked at that and said she has PTSD.
The reason I say
like if I looked at that and like diagnosed her.
Because Josh, some of the stuff that you were just saying just there felt like, it's one thing to say somebody's response is rare. Saying it's abnormal implies a different thing, right? Being really, really smart or really, really pretty is rare. But when we talk about abnormal, we mean like there's like a deviant connotation there. So it's like, once we say what she did was not only uncommon, but it was abnormal, as if it's like a trauma response, it kind of like pathologizes what she did before we even get a chance to talk about if she's right, and it puts it on her in a way that's I don't think it's necessarily appropriate.
Your pathology has a root cause, right?
But that doesn't make it
like your pathology. Your pathology has a root cause. Like, I don't think that people should have this conversation.
Why are we even calling it a pathology?
You just called it a pathology.
No, I'm saying we're pathologizing it. No. I'm saying that it is being pathologized by the language that was being used there, of asking first, what's wrong with her? Do y'all get what I'm getting at least? Like, I don't know if I'm articulating it well, but do you understand what I'm even talking about?
I'm honestly not quite sure, because I'm just saying there's a cause and a reaction, or cause and effect.
Yeah, everything has a cause.
Yeah, like.
We're like literally we could take out the language of it, and we could literally just like backtrack that whole segment of the conversation and say like nobody asked why she responded like that. And the why could easily be like what you're saying, like the statistics of the situation, the fear, like the way that puts people in positions where like they feel like they have to respond like that. We could easily like change the language and get like to the exact same heart of the fact that like every situation has a cause. Like, nobody asked the why. They just wanted to point on, you know, like, was this attention seeking or you know, like,
that's a why question too, though.
Like I agree. I think that like, which is why I'm fine like having this conversation, because I think that ultimately what you're doing is trying to get to the why of everything. But I think that we're just looking at the why as like a cause and effect on the behavior itself. And I think that
I don't think that's what's happening though. Like
you're looking at it from this like pathologizing kind of like ethos.
Because I think that's what's there. Because it's like we're like if a black person is stopped by the police and they're okay, so like, for instance, there's this video where a black woman gets pulled over in a gas station and the police officer is like super aggressive with her. Like, he's like, I'm going to fucking kill you. She's out of the car, hands up, whatever. He's threatening her at gunpoint. He's like, why didn't you pull over for me? And she basically, he was behind her and she drove for like miles to get to a gas station before pulling over. And she's like, because I didn't want to be pulled over in an unpopulated section of highway by you, right? And he's kind of proving her point with the aggression. I think that a lot of non-black people would look at her behavior and go like, oh, was she traumatized, or why did she do that, or did she have a negative experience with the police? And I'm like, that seems to me like it's starting from what experience or strangeness is there in the individual, instead of going like, what thing about the society around them makes that a very reasonable response? And I feel like that's what we're implying.
I completely disagree.
Okay, maybe, because the why could easily be societal.
If I'm saying, well, why did she
yeah.
do that? The why could be societal.
But
the
I feel
root
like
cause
you're-
could be a societal, structural situation.
I heard you. I'm not saying that asking the why is like unreasonable. I'm saying that implying that the why must be a traumatic experience implies, because when we talk about trauma, a lot of times we're talking about a person is traumatized, therefore they respond with a trauma response in inappropriate situations. And so when asking that question, I think we're implying or begging the question at the beginning of the conversation that the response is inappropriate for the situation. Why'd you do that? Are you traumatized? Instead of being like, why did you do that? Is that a reasonable response in this situation? Do you see what I'm saying?
No, because I think
Okay.
what you're doing is over-indexing on the fact that one of the possible whys of the situation that was highlighted was PTSD. I think that if we had said, why is she acting like that? Is it because of the statistics that we're having a completely different conversation?
No, but okay,
so I
but
think
you're
you're
moving back and forth between
over-indexing
what we're
on
talking
PTSD.
about. No, but you're moving back and forth between what we're talking about, because
I'm not.
beginning of the hold on, bro. Sorry, I apologize. The beginning of the conversation was us already talking about the whys. The why that Josh brought up was, has she been through a traumatic experience? That's what this section of the conversation was about. It was about PTSD. That's what I'm
No, it was
responding
about
to,
the
not
why.
the why.
Like, no,
Okay,
we
well, then I'm
literally
correcting
clarified.
what-
We literally
damn.
both clarified that. We literally both clarified that.
I'm
that,
talking
like, what
about
we're
the
saying is
PTSD bit.
cause and
I am
effect.
talking
I know
about-
you're talking about the PTSD. I literally just said that what you're over-indexing on is the PTSD.
I'm not over-indexing.
So I
That's
said,
what I'm talking about.
you're over, like literally, like literally.
I never
And
said the
again,
why is bad. I
wanna-
said a why that starts with PTSD. If your question is, why did she do that? Is it because it is PTSD? I'm acknowledging or criticizing why that question's formulation is a problem. That's the only thing I'm making any claim about. Any other why or any other question about why, that's the rest of what the conversation was about.
Cool. So what happened and what happened if you scroll back about 10 minutes, right?
Okay.
Where you got into this whole situation about pathologizing, right? What Josh said, and I'm quoting Josh, I do want Josh to jump in on his thoughts if I'm misinterpreting
please.
what I'm quoting.
I got
Because he literally said there's a cause and an effect, right? Because we got into this whole situation about pathologizing. You took the conversation further, talking about what's a cause and what's not a cause. So at that point, the conversation morphed from being about PTSD. I'm jumping back past that point, and I'm saying that if we never talked about it, if we literally just said that there's a cause and effect, you wouldn't have even had this conversation. He gave
Correct.
a potential cause for an effect. But the root of the conversation is the fact that there is cause and effect, not a particular cause linked to an effect. So you can literally just take the whole conversation about PTSD out. Like, if that's what you want to talk
What do
about,
you
cool.
even
But like,
mean-
that's
what are
not
you
the
even
heart of what
talking
we're
about?
saying. That's not the heart of what we're saying. The heart of what we're saying is that there's cause and
we were
effect.
having a conversation about cause and
About
effect,
cause and effect.
which I was engaging with, and then we brought up why didn't we talk about PTSD?
And
I made a
all you want to
criticism
talk
without
about,
that.
you only want to talk
Not
about
on-
PTSD, and
What
we're
is
talking
going
about
on
cause
right
and
now?
effect.
Josh,
I'm
come
mad.
here.
I'm hella confused. I'm hella confused.
You
What is
literally,
going
you
on
literally
right
said
now?
I want to have a conversation about. You said you literally want to have a conversation about PTSD is what you just said, and I'm saying that we're not trying to have that conversation. We're trying to have a general conversation
It's
about
literally
the why,
what
the cause
it's
and effect.
literally what
Yeah.
was brought up. It's literally what was brought up, and I addressed that one specific. I mean,
And
we're going
then
in a
Josh
circle now. I
circled
don't think
around
there's
after you
any-
talked about pathologizing and said we're just talking about cause and effect, and you took the conversation further, saying all this other kind of stuff about cause and effect. Like, that's what
Josh, you
you
wanna
brought
jump
the
in at any
conversation
time here?
to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying because like I'm honestly confused because like,
Okay.
I don't understand where your beef was with what we're saying. Like, honestly, like I don't understand like what you're diverging from like what I was saying or what AB was saying. So
mostly
and
what you were
then,
saying,
like,
I think, but.
yeah, it's because I'm not sure exactly where you're coming from. And I know you tried to break it down, but I'm still confused. I'm sorry, I'm still confused because like
Like, I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, right. Because all I was saying was just like if she had a reaction to a situation, and that reaction, and like AB was saying, the reason why it went viral because it's not necessarily a normal reaction to have just based off of that interaction just by itself. And that's why I said, well, maybe what caused it to have such an outburst or a reaction. Get out! That's my purse. I don't know you. Like that, have to have that energy to a random person. It was like, well, what trauma? Like maybe like what happened to her? And I'm not even like shaming her or like saying like she is strange, but no, what occurred in your life to make you have this response in this situation? I'm not saying like anything bad about her or making her seem like strange, but just what happened.
Yeah, I disagree, but I don't think it was going anywhere there. But maybe a follow-up question to take it in a different direction might be, okay, let's say something did happen to her, which statistically, as you mentioned, has happened to like lots of women. Then what? I guess is maybe the next interesting bit.
I think we've. I mean, okay. So if something did happen to her, like where do we go from there?
Yeah, like what do we maybe do with that information? Like, yes, something happened to her, which has happened to lots of women. Her response was in this way. So then what does that like maybe tell us about the situation, or does that change anything about how we might interpret it or anything like that, in your view?
I think it just provides more sense and clarity to that I don't even want to say outbreak, but just I think it just provides more sense and clarity. You just have an answer. Okay, this makes sense. I get it. That makes sense. And if the person being in that situation understood her past trauma and like knew that was not a safe space for him to even like ask, hey, what time is it? Or like, whatever innocent shit that he might have been doing. Hopefully it was innocent. Then it's like, okay, well, if he would have knew that up front, all right, well, cool. Hey, I will fucking ask this question somewhere else. Or maybe I'm not going to approach her or try to hit on her.
Sure. So then like the question that comes from that is like, if her response is based on that experience, then, and lots of people have had that experience, then it's the question of like, do we generalize that higher up and go like, should men, because that's what's being claimed in the video, and
Okay.
like,
Yeah,
even though people
Let's
are
have that conversation.
in two different directions, like, Alvin, to your point earlier, like, yeah, some people are saying like, oh, she's tripping, but it wasn't universal at all. Like half of people were like, she's not tripping. So then the question is like, because obviously you can't read a woman's mind before you meet her to go like, oh, she's
Right.
had this experience. But you can statistically know she probably has based on, whatever. So then is it no man should ever approach any woman in a parking lot or whatever it may be?
I like this conversation because when we talked about it before, I still believe that people can approach others in public places. Now, of course, you got certain situations where it just makes sense to not approach. But just in general, like, should men no longer approach women in public? It's like, no, that's crazy. Like, we're already dealing with the situation of men not even wanting to make the first move. And because we've gotten, like, there's just been so much, like, backlash or just, like, things that are going on in the ether of guys being put on blast for, like, oh, my God, like, he was a creep when, like, it was relatively innocent. Now, of course, you do have those situations where, this is what it is and this happened. But like you also still have like those instances where like what you're describing is actually not what happened in real life. Like that's not the intention.
It was just somebody being awkward or somebody. I mean, yeah, 'cause, I mean, sometimes a person is like just hitting on a person. And I mean, to be fair, like that can be threatening, you know what I mean? But everything's not a kidnapping either. So there's that. But I think it also depends on like which city and environment you're in. Because as we were having that conversation about different cities and how they can vary, I'm like, every parking lot ain't the same. You know what I mean? Like the way that you move when you're in, what'd you say, Phipps or whatever? Like when you've got a bag on you or something that you think a person might take, you're on guard. You might not be on that same level of guard in a parking lot in a different city or in a different town or,
or if
et
I
cetera,
didn't
et
have the
cetera.
bag, you know what I mean?
Or
Like,
if you
I
didn't
don't
have the
know.
bag.
Yeah.
But women always got the bag on them. You know what I mean? So that's, but it, because I feel like, yeah, if you're in a certain small town, it's one thing. If you're in a really safe city, it's a different thing. If you're at a party where there's like social proof, it's a different thing. And it's hard to come up with hard and fast rules except for at the extremes. I think at the extremes, you can kind of go like, gym, basically never, unless there's some real extenuating circumstances that make it clear that like, this is a safer environment to do it.
But
Club, probably yes, or,
I think, man, bro, okay, so I think it's better to have a conversation of what should you do when approaching women versus all this hypothetical what can't
That's
you
a great
do.
point. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Because you can find love, you can meet somebody literally anywhere if the vibe is right.
Yeah, but vibes have to be curated and and found. They're not. You know what I'm saying?
Buddy, now you can stumble upon
And
a
you
vibe.
need skill. You need skill to interpret vibe too.
To interpret
can-
that vibe. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. You need skill to interpret the vibe. And I think those are more
Yeah, and that's but it's a
productive
skill.
conversations.
That's a skill that's not like as easy to acquire as I think. I think we've all like tiptoed into making that seem like that's a lot easier than it is. Like on this podcast.
I'm
But
arguing that it very isn't. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
we know
I
you're
would
not a
would
vibes
say, yeah, like I'm
Most-
just thinking back to the
most people
conversation
aren't,
we
is
had.
what I'm getting.
Yeah,
at.
we had the conversation with Suburban Boys, and I think that was eye opening to me on how like there are social intricacies that people that you wouldn't necessarily even like think like lack that, and they lack it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm making much sense.
No, you 100%. And I'm even, John, like you are a vibes nigga, but also like you're a relatively young, bearded, tall fellow. I think that you also maybe even overestimate how good you are at reading the vibe. You know what I'm saying? I do too. That's not even a specific at you, but I feel like people,
Eddie was like, Eddie was like, oh yeah, you know, I am the vibe, you know, like, you know, Josh, you a vibe, but I'm a vibe too, so I don't have to, you know, I can look past a lot of these intricacies because I'm that nigga. Is what he
exactly. I ain't got to worry with all that. I'm a hot nigga.
But, so okay, and that's totally fair. But what were you about to say?
So,
I feel like you had more coming.
Fuck, did I? Yeah. So I feel like that's a little bit hand wavy, which I know, like generally speaking, your stance is like, let's talk about what we can do, and it's like reading a vibe is fucking difficult. You know what I'm saying? Because I also think people get like when people instead of reading a vibe, they're looking for a vibe. You know what I'm saying? So they're trying to figure out what can I do to make this person interact with me in the way that I want them to interact with me, and so they're looking for the yes instead of being like, is this a situation where my attention is being wanted? And I feel like that fucks you up.
I just feel like that's kind of like a fucked up approach if you're like automatically looking for the yes, because you just never know what's going to happen, because you got to be okay with it. You got to be okay with the no. And I think that's where a lot of niggas fuck up. Like they're looking for the yes and not taking the no.
Yep.
And it's like you can give like a little bit of pushback, but do not like approach someone and make their day any worse than what it fucking was before. Like that's my whole thing. Like always be respectful, because like it's so many different people and like just different approaches and styles of approaches that women and men like. Some women like the more aggressive, like dumb nigga shit. No disrespect to you if you like it, but like we see examples of it, and it's like okay,
just talking to me.
This dumb shit work.
This dumb nigga approach.
No, that was just more so to anybody. I mean, if that's what you like, that's what you like, but not you. But but I'm just saying like this. There's so many different styles of approach. But my overall thing is when it comes to the vibe and just approaching somebody, like for one, give them some space. And I'll even use the example of a parking lot. Like if I was a nigga out here approaching women like that, which I'm not, but I have before. But if I was a nigga doing that, if I was in a parking lot, first, is there some eye contact? Did she look my way? Okay. And then I would say, hey, excuse me, and I would like have plenty of space with my hands up.
With the rock too?
Just real quick, I just wanted to give you just like quick compliment, like something like that. Just call out something like, oh, I like that. Just some sort of icebreaker, but keep my space. And if she's responding favorably, I'll move in a little bit closer, but make sure like I'm not a threat to you. You know what I'm saying? And if the conversation, yeah.
Okay, so, and that's in a situation where you specifically are looking to, I'm putting it crassly, but like, and I know people don't like it when I do this, but the reason I'm doing it is to clarify like what the final question really is in a situation where you're maybe looking to fuck this lady. That's the context, yeah?
I mean, maybe, yeah. I guess if we're just being like that super crass, like yo,
I feel like it's necessary.
Like
I feel like it's necessary.
But see, I don't have that state of thought. Like what's in my head is not fucking. Like it's how it's just approaching. Like because I feel like that's what a lot of niggas fuck up too. It's like they the end goal is in their head and they thinking about immediately, fucking, then they just move from there. Like no, I'm not just thinking about automatically.
The reason that I bring that up is because I think on the guy's end, or just like the approacher's end, you're going like, what's the best this could be? On the other person's hand who's on guard, they're going, what's the worst this could be? So if I'm Alvin in the parking lot with my little Louis bag, I'm not going, what's the best intention? Say again.
It was very little, by the way. It was very
okay. His little tiny. They could
barely see the LV print on it.
It just had one LV and it was this little.
Right, that was it.
So when somebody approaches me, I'm not going, what's the best, most like low level intention they could go? I'm going, what is the worst situation this could be when taken all the way to its extreme? of what this person may want, and that has to be in my mind. I think that's, or at least I think that's a very reasonable way to interpret it. So that's why I'm like, I'm not saying maybe you're not thinking about that, but like I think it's just dishonest for us to be like, that's not on the table, that's not part of the pathway somewhere in the back of the mind. You know what I mean?
Never said it was. Never meant to give that impression whatsoever. Because
and I'm not. Yeah, but I'm just contextualizing why I was like, let's make it crass. Like, let's talk about what we're talking about. Is my view.
Yeah, I see.
Because otherwise, we're doing like, oh, I'm such a nice. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I get it. Because like, oh, I'm such a nice guy. Like, but you know, like, but at the end of the day, like, yeah, you want companionship, like, you want connection, like, you want to fuck.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I'm saying.
But I just feel like niggas just need to have a better pedigree of decorum about themselves most of the time, because that's why we're in this situation in the first place. Because niggas is nasty. Niggas be doing foul shit to women. But I also feel like yes, like women could be afraid, rightfully so, like under any circumstances when someone to do like approaches them. But isn't it also good for when you have like this fear in your head and like you're like, oh my God, like, that was actually a really pleasant interaction. I'm glad they talked to me. Like, there are good niggas out here. Like, when you actually have real life examples of positive interactions from like actual upstanding men. Of course, yeah. Versus just everybody being so afraid of each other.
Yeah. And all I'm getting at is on both ends of that interaction, how to distinguish them, because the existence of good niggas doesn't preclude the existence of serial killers. You know what I mean? Like, the fact that you're a nice guy that's not trying to kill women doesn't mean that anybody but you knows that, and it doesn't stop the existence of other crazy people out there in the world. So you kind of got to take that calculation into mind every time you're having any interaction. This lady don't know me, so how do we move from this to like, you know, because I feel like in everybody's head they're like, but I'm good. Like, why are you mad at me? I'm a good guy. It's like, yeah, that's some shit that's in your head, not the other person's head. So I'm like. Yeah. So
I will say the way that I find solace with the fact that like I know the statistics, I know the fact that violence, especially sexual violence, is rampant, and it's rampant based on the stats that we know, and the stats that we know are probably underreported. So the problem is on paper bad and probably worse than what we think it is. So I think that a lot of times for me, I've internalized that. And like, I don't have conversations with women in parking lots and at the store unless they initiate it. Like, I just don't.
Yeah.
Like, if they talk to me, then, you know, I've had some very pleasant exchanges with people that just wanted to like shoot the shit. Like, I remember I was at a store looking at a video game, and it was a lady that talked to me for about 30 minutes just on like gaming, computers. Like, nothing came of that. She was just looking for gifts for her like nephew.
Just interacting with another human being. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just an interaction. You know, bye. We both walked off. Like, so I don't have those conversations that I initiate in stores, in parking lots. I limit conversation of the nature to match your crassness of like, I want to fuck, like historically, to social settings. You know, bars, clubs, parties, you know, kickbacks, that kind of situation.
There's a general understanding that this might be the vibe. Yeah.
Because they're at least open to being social. Like, even if nothing comes up from that idea, like you're in a social place, like I think it's a more reasonable expectation that you're probably expecting to be social. But there are a lot of people who like go to those places and don't want to interact with people outside of their circle. And to Josh's point, you got to be fine with being told like, hey man, like I'm here with my homegirls, I'm here with my homeboy, like, you know,
I'm good.
Peace. And you gotta be willing to have that conversation within you as well. But to your point, I don't do the thing that the woman. So
now the question is, do you think maybe that's, or like how much of a rule of thumb do you think maybe that should be? Because also like let me try and add context to my question too, because also I'm like,
I still think it's a good one without the context.
Yeah, sure, but I also wanted to add this little bit of like, Josh, the example you gave of like, here's a way that you can approach a woman in a parking lot that you are somewhat attracted to. Right? If I just bring the crassness down a little bit, I'm also thinking about like, what if you're not? Like, what if it's literally just like, yo, where did you get those shoes from? Or like, yo, like, I love that TV show graphic T-shirt that you're wearing, and you literally are not interested in that kind of thing.
Oh, bro, so, I've had interactions like that.
Of course. And so the context I'm just adding to the question is like, do you think that maybe it's a decent rule of thumb for men to just never or very rarely approach women in parking lots for either reason, or does it vary based on what?
No, I just feel like you got to just keep it moving. Like if you want to give somebody a compliment, like you don't have to like stay and then try to chat and da. Like I one of my favorite things to do, especially when I'm drunk, is give drive-by compliments, and it's always goes over well. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I like such and such. Oh, I like that shirt. You doing it? You killing it? Like, and just keep it moving. Like, leave people the fuck alone. Like, if you want to interact, just kind of test the water a little bit, but just ultimately be okay with someone not wanting to interact with you. Like, there's not a shame on like your personage or whatever, like what the fuck ever you want to call it. Like, just be okay with people not wanting to interact with you. If it's no, take the no and get the fuck out. Leave her the fuck alone, because no one deserves to be harassed.
And Alvin,
that's my main thing. But
and that makes sense to me. But Alvin seems to be of the mind that like he doesn't do this behavior at all.
But
so I'm wondering, what do you think? How do you think that should be generalized?
Yeah, so I definitely don't, but I think if I had to generalize it, I'd be more in line with Josh's perspective than my own. Like, that doesn't change anything about how I personally move, but I don't necessarily think how I personally move is applicable to the general.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I think we all from the beginning agreed on that. Like, for the most part, approach if you want to approach, be ready for the no, move the fuck on. Don't. I also think another thing that helps is because I go for like the don't approach in a way that requires something of the other person. You know what I'm saying? Like, it shouldn't be, oh, you're beautiful, like, hey, what's your name? Or even anything like that. Like, a compliment is always good because it doesn't require anything from the other person. At maximum, it requires them to say, oh, thanks, and they can move the fuck on. So that it gives space for the other person to engage or not engage with the thing. You know what I mean? Or like, oh, I love that TV show, or I love your shoes, or whatever, and then move the fuck on. Because they'll let you know if they want to continue this interaction instead of being like, hey, do you come here often? Like, asking them questions and shit like that. I feel like it's kind of traps
doing
the
this little head movement. Yeah, you come here.
Right.
Trying to figure
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, look, man, they'll ask you a question if they're interested in the interaction. Going more, you don't have to do the hard sell kind of a thing.
What happened?
That shit that Josh just mimicked you on, like, that exaggeration was just fucking hilarious. Because you could just see some nigga like cornering some poor woman with that shit and just scaring the shit out of them.
He's looking like a snake.
And I'm very sorry that happens too much.
Yeah.
And the hard sell is not. Yeah. But yeah, no, good. Like, your advice was like the shout at her from far away. Don't come too close when you initiate the approach. So I didn't.
Is that part of it? Like, close and like enough distance to where like I'm not an immediate threat. No.
Yeah.
Enough distance.
Yeah.
You know, like there's enough distance to where like she feels comfortable, like to be able to. She has space. Like, she has enough space.
She can get away. Yeah,
but you can just still speak comfortable. Like, you're not yelling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I just feel like just to have a blanket rule that men should not approach women point blank, period, is not going to be healthy, because women damn sure ain't approaching men like that. Most women don't approach men. Like,
I think that's increasing though. Maybe, I don't know.
It's increasing, but it's still. Yeah. But most women still expect for. Most women have the mindset that they want to be sought after or made to feel special. You're not going to feel that special off rip if you're the one that's always initiating shit.
Yeah, well, they can let go of that.
That's kind of how I feel.
I mean, sure, they can let go of that though. Like, we can move on.
But also, people, just like men, women have ego too. So that's an easy thing to say, but like in practice, for a mass group of people, like, it's going to take some time for sure. Like, more women are approaching.
They can do
guys.
it. They grown. Like, yeah, you know
they
what I'm
can.
saying? Like,
but it's still a thing though, because
it is.
They can. Yes, anybody can do anything. But in terms
I
of,
guess,
I don't know, Eddie, man. I just thought that you was a real alpha nigga type. You know, I just thought that you wanted to be on the prowl.
hey,
Real alpha, true, hard masculine type nigga, man. And now you trying to get these women to approach you? That's off brand.
The alpha male is actually the beta when you really look at the science of this shit. The sigma male gets approached
break it down
by the theta female.
Ooh.
That's just basic science. That's, you know what I'm saying? That's the magenta pill that niggas don't really want you to
man.
know about.
That shit was in the Geneva Convention, bro. That shit was
That's what I'm
like
trying to tell you. They did a study about
like
this last year about pheromones.
Einstein's theory of like relativity, like talked about that shit, right? It's all relative.
E equals MC bitches.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what he wrote the song about. Equals MC. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Stop. Hammer time. Gotta give him the hammer sometimes, you know what I'm saying?
I like that magenta pill shit, bro. We gotta,
I know that shit was.
okay,
Niggas
cold.
don't know.
I know.
Don't know
Like,
about it.
damn.
Let's do one little last thing before we head out.
Oh, the kid. Okay, nude, being naked.
Oh yeah,
Being naked
man,
is
look,
okay.
bro. I'm sorry, man.
As teenagers, you're always thinking, I'm so fat.
There have definitely been times that I've looked in the mirror and hated what I see.
This is a baby step to becoming more accepting of who you are.
Being naked is not a bad thing at all.
0, please.
I think it's time that we see what real male bodies look like.
Whoa, naked men.
Come on. Like, because Josh.
I couldn't believe this shit was on TV. Like, what country is?
It's the UK, bro. It's Channel 4. That's the crazy shit.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. When them niggas was in the classroom and them motherfuckers just dropped their clothes.
But oh man, see, okay. There's layers to what my stance is here, which is that I think when we have these conversations around like what is appropriate for children and sexuality and things like that, we have to understand that nothing is inherently sexual.
Mm-hmm.
Sexualizing of things is based on context and framing and allusions and like media literacy. We build up the context of those things over time. So there's nothing inherently sexual about the naked adult body. But we understand after consuming media that certain situations are sexual. And I feel like we have to then guard against that reality, even if it's a social construct. And so when I'm looking at this, I'm like, destigmatizing naked adults being around children, I don't think is a step in the right direction. I think it's putting the cart before the horse. That little social, like the fact that that's socially unacceptable, I think acts as like a bit of a barrier from bad shit happening, if that makes sense to you. Like, if you go, hey, being with your teacher, that's okay. But if your teacher's dick is out, that might be an unsafe situation. But once you go, oh, but nope, dick is out, that's still an educational situation. You've removed like one little like buffer point between an acceptable and an unacceptable situation that I think should remain there, at least the way our society is set up now. So if anybody disagrees, please, like, if I'm tripping, but I think I've contextualized the nuance of my stance there.
I think my issue with the clip, knowing nothing else other than the clip,
yeah, I didn't watch this.
Is that it seems to be approaching this from a body positivity standpoint.
Exactly.
And I just think that this is the dumbest possible way to approach body positivity. so regardless of where you stand,
I'm glad we all just on the same page. This shit seems dumb and unnecessary and too much.
Like I think that the nudity conversation is definitely like you have to have that conversation when you look at that trailer. But I think that like if their angle is like body positivity, that they've just missed the mark.
Yeah.
For example, like there was a part where they said, well, you know, men don't have to have these chiseled bodies, and this is what a real male body looks like. How does that make somebody feel more positive about their body? Like, I think that we need to talk about like building self-esteem and building self-confidence over time with a much more nuanced approach and having real conversations about the reality of what people actually look like, and airbrushing and media messaging and the fact that like 12 angry old white men control all of like Western media and like all that kind of shit, and like they portray what they want. Like I think there's a much more academic means of approaching body positivity that can have very, very good results. And I think this was just like a lazy clickbaity way to kind of have what I think is a very important conversation.
because I'm looking at it again, and looking back at it, I think the only issue that I actually have with it is the fact that they had naked adults in front of naked children, or sorry, in front of children. Everything else, I think, like having naked adults around each other and being able to operate, I think there's something positive to that.
I don't think it's anything. So I don't think it's anything wrong with naked adults around naked adults. I still don't think that does much for body positivity.
Yeah. I think it could. I think it does help. I think it does, to an extent, help.
A little
especially
bit, but
if the context is
Because I'm just saying, like, theoretically, right? Theoretically, you've always been around normal bodies, right? Like, you've always seen normal bodies. Like, that's not what impacts the psyche of most people's like image. It's the media message.
True.
It's the fact that like I see a doctor Instagram post of 50 surgeries deep Kim Kardashian, and I'm holding myself to that standard. Not the person that's like sitting next to me on the plane. Like, I know what these motherfuckers look like. I've always known what these motherfuckers look like.
And I don't need to see you naked to know what you look like. I don't need to see you naked and know that you have like a concave ass. Like,
that's
and
true.
know that this ass exists in reality. Yeah,
I've been to it. I saw you in the airport. That's true. But I think also it's like, okay, one, I think we were underestimating how much people hide their bodies and how much bodies are hidden and how much bodies are accentuated or exaggerated in real life. Like,
that's fair.
People wear a ton of makeup. They wear a ton of body, sleeves or whatever those are called, heels, clothing. Like, I don't think we actually do know what the average person's body looks like walking around. We have a completely,
I feel you, man.
Off.
When you see me in the streets, I'm actually 6'3".
Exactly. He got the high heels. You know what I'm saying? He got the lifties.
Yeah, man. Red bottoms on.
Louboutins. I'm just imagining Alvin just punching holes in the concrete with his weight on those heels, like cha.
Yeah, we got Louboutin boots.
Oh yeah, got you. Yeah. But also, I think it depends on what activities you're doing, because I agree people walk around and there's all kinds of different bodies around you. But I think being in that environment that they're doing, like where you're swimming naked or you're eating, or like that nudist colony shit, where you're going like you don't have to be ashamed of your body in the way that, because when you're clothed, you're kind of like, yeah, okay, I don't want people to see my rolls. I don't want people to see my tiny penis. I don't want people to see my bald head. I don't want people to see my crusty feet. So our clothing hides all of that. If you take that off and go, no, I can still exist and have a conversation with you. I can still go skinny dipping. I can still, and it's okay that people have different bodies. I think that can go a long way. So I think it actually would have a positive, low-level effect.
I agree with that, but for one, I don't believe that you necessarily need to have live adults in the classroom exposing themselves to children,
bro.
Even if it's not
nobody.
sexual.
That shit was.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah. So I mean, but I do agree. I do feel like a possible better way that you could do that is just to have video of like, okay, like this is what the actual human body looks like, and normalizing it through that. Like, you don't need to actually have like live fucking like actors. In the classroom, like just dropping trousers.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. It's wild. That's some wild shit.
That's crazy. I'm sorry. That's crazy as fuck.
It reminded me of this video where this guy was like, he was like an escape artist, and he was like, okay, so today I'm going to risk my freedom. If I'm not able to get myself out of these cuffs, the system is going to drop my trousers and expose me to a bunch of children. So I'm going to risk becoming a registered sex offender. And
is that Nathan for you or something? Or
I can't
like,
remember where it came from.
I've seen that one. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was funny as fuck. But it just kind of reminded me of
Eric
that.
Andre. Yeah.
But ultimately, I'm with AB. Like, there's so many more ways that we can normalize. That we can have body positivity, or like increase the body positivity within the culture and within society itself. Because even though like you got instances where you can't necessarily tell what someone looks like in their clothes, most of the time you can know. Like, if we just talking about your regular, big, small, skinny, whatever person, like you get a good feel just from being around people and seeing people in general. It's just the standard of what we're holding ourselves to is something that's crazy.
Exactly, because I think that like if people really, I think not everybody, but I'd say a slight majority, if they really sat down and looked at like their reality, they'd be a lot more positive. Like, something that like resonated with me like when I was in high school is there's an episode of Entourage where Vince was not like a chiseled like actor. Adrian Garnier like that. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a chiseled.
He was a very
individual.
pretty faced fellow though.
Yeah, he's a very good looking guy. But Turtle was like, you should work out, Vince, because I've always said you need a Hollywood body. And that hit him really hard in that episode. And what pulled him out of it was that some woman came up to him, which I when I'm thinking back on it now, I think drama may have paid her. But a woman came up to him and was like, "Oh my God, you're so hot." And like he left with the woman, he was like, "Fuck you, Turtle, my body's fine." So I think that like if a lot of people really like sat down and contextualized the fact that like you not looking like the airbrushed, digitized, AI generated bodies like don't really stop much of a show for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I do think that it stops it for some people, and I think that that's a completely separate conversation that I think should be addressed. But I think if most people like really look at their reality, like it kind of doesn't matter. It kind of doesn't matter that like you don't have a 12 pack.
I think that's putting it back on the individual in a way that doesn't make sense. Because
I do think that most people's individual onus of their self-esteem is underrated. I think most people have a majority of the onus to protect their own self-esteem.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that.
So I do think that it puts a lot of it on the person. I think most of it should be on the person. And to also an equal extent, the people that raised them, like their family, their mother, their fathers, that kind of situation.
Because I would say I feel like we act like society is this big fucking machine that we don't. I'm not saying you necessarily, but we act like society is this big fucking machine that isn't part of like community. Like we view society as like something different than community. Like the media that we consume, that we give our money to, the governments that we pay taxes to, the society that we exist in, we have a right to have a say in the way it impacts our mind. And the other point I was going to make is you can, till you're blue in the face, say that this is how a person should think and they should objectively see the world. But we know for a fact media programs how people think. We know that to be true. So we can tell every individual, okay, just plug your ears and don't be impacted by the media that we know impacts you, and instead put it on you. It's like, no, we should change things in media because media is a thing that we as a society create. We get to go, no, we don't like seeing those images. Because you can do that same thing with black people and white people and shit. Like, but you have to change black imagery in media.
So we're having this whole conversation about changing media, right?
Yeah.
That's something that
which
millions
I thought was your point
people,
initially.
Yeah, I agree that we should change media, but like, and not even necessarily change media. I think that the power comes from understanding what media messages are. Therefore, you can consume media in its current state and it roll right off you. Like I don't give a shit
Bullshit.
about. I don't give a shit.
I agree that media literacy helps, but it doesn't take you to 0% impacted by media ever.
I think ultimately it can, but we can agree to this.
Well,
Okay.
that takes
But my ultimate.
okay. So real quick, that just take what AB, what you're saying. I feel like that takes a level of self-awareness that a lot of people don't have. That's where the issue is. I don't think a lot of people just have that level of self-awareness and acceptance.
So, but here's my point though, and why I would push back to that very point, right? Because you're saying that we as a society should change media, right? How do we even get to the point of us saying we as a society need to change media if lots of people in society don't recognize that media is bullshit? So like we have some onus on how we interpret media to begin with. So like we can interpret media and understand that what's being shown is bullshit, which means that we have some onus of its impact on us. And I'm not saying all of it is us. I'm saying that like I'd say slight majority. I'd say 55%.
Yeah, I don't know what the numbers are, but I think the issue is like you're implying that like the entire population of 300 million people who are consuming media in America have to have a high level of media literacy in order for us to change something. And I'm like, we've been changing media since media has existed. Like what black imagery looks like on the screen has changed drastically over the last 50 years. That didn't require everybody to have media literacy. What you need is enough people to have media literacy to acknowledge the way something impacts individuals generally, and then you push to get that thing changed. Saying that like millions and millions of people should all individually make a change in their mind is not how anything ever has worked with any change.
So actually most of the time it has. So most of the time with that, it's either been populist uprising in the history of the United States, or it's been legislation. What do you need to legislate at the national level? You need hundreds of millions of votes. So like if I'm going to be a person, I'm running on a platform of like.
But you're still
media
talking
messages.
about individuals voting in order to create a policy change, not individuals taking it on themselves to not be impacted by a system.
No, but they have to understand the impact of the system to even
not
support
all
the
of them,
vote.
just enough to vote for something, just enough to boycott something.
But again,
That's
at the national level,
No, but
that's
that doesn't require a
tens,
majority.
hundreds of
That's
millions
still
of
not an
people.
individual. Yeah, but I'm not saying it's not a lot of people. I'm saying the solution is not at the individual level. The solution is enough people have petitioned to cause a policy level change that impacts everybody. That's how you get a bigger model on the cover of Sports Illustrated. That's how you get a black person to win an Oscars.
If we want to split hairs on because I didn't say everybody, but like I literally said that a slight majority. If we want to split hairs and say that like 40% of people versus me saying 55% of people need to have a good understanding of media and self-awareness to understand that like the media messages can like negatively impact people to move the needle, then cool, we can differ on what that percentage is.
Okay,
but
yeah.
a lot of people do need to understand that, and I would say the fact that we're even having these conversations, and not just us, that this is a mass conversation, shows that more people than like I think you're understanding do understand that these media messages are impactful. And I do think that once you, as a member of those masses, because there are masses, understand that there are like these media messages, that you should have some onus and understanding that they shouldn't necessarily impact your self-esteem. That's all I'm saying.
I think it's that last skip that I'm mostly disagreeing with. Or maybe I disagree with several things, but that last bill that you're tacking on at the end is the disagreement. So you kind of like weighted it heavy on the front. If we're saying, yeah, some large percentage of the population needs to have media literacy in order for us to push to change media imagery, yeah, obviously.
And
there's never any disagreement there.
That same population can say like my self-esteem. If I know that the media is bullshit, my self-esteem shouldn't be contingent on the media.
And that's I disagree with. And
I know, but I
nothing
think that's
about.
Fair.
Yeah, but you're acting like something about that first argument supports that second argument, and it doesn't.
It does. It 100% does.
Let me say this real quick, because the way in which that it could impact you indirectly is, yes, your direct self-esteem should not be impacted by what you see in the media, because it's bullshit, it's fake, it's doctored. Now, when you're in community with other people, they're still consuming the same media, but they're not on the same type of time you're on. They're not as aware as you. They could say some shit directly to you that will negatively impact you and make you feel some type of way about yourself, because they're still holding up to this negative to this beauty standard or whatnot. So I just think that's like one way in which like the media indirectly impacts people, even if you're not going to even if you have the self-awareness to not directly engage in it, to make that have some sort of influence on your own self-esteem.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think that my point for bringing up the entourage example is that I feel like a lot of times people over-index on like seeing the airbrush image and don't understand that like, I'm still getting niggas, I'm still getting women in the context of like the real world. I think people over-index on like the media messaging outside of like their actual lived experience.
I think though that like even in that example that you gave, I think we're reducing too much of this conversation down to just like, will somebody stick their dick in me, or will somebody let me stick my dick in them? It's like
I'm trying to be crass, man. I'm following the lead of the host.
Yeah, hey, look, I'm right there with you. I think it's a good section.
But you're right.
I think we're reducing everything down to that. The fact that some lady was willing to fuck Vinny really doesn't make the argument that you think it's making, because he's still those pressures to have a Hollywood body in order to get roles still existed, even if a lady will fuck him. Like, so when we're talking about media representation,
but his whole thing in that wasn't about roles. Like that was like
it was about body.
That's why. Fair. That's why I think that was a good example, because that was like the height of Aquaman, where he was like the biggest movie star on the planet during that point of the show.
My point is larger than that, though, which is that.
But you're right. Your larger point stands.
If we're talking about media representation, which I think we're talking about body positivity, but I think we all understand this when I talk about blackness. Like, we understand that seeing black scientists or black girls in STEM in a movie, or black people that aren't a thug or a criminal or a musician, that impacts the way we view ourselves in the world. And somebody wanting to fuck you is not, that by itself is not enough. Like, if you don't see fat bodies being loved, not just fucked, in media, that's going to impact most people's minds, no matter how much media literacy they have. And it can't be reduced down to like, yeah, but I can get on Hinge and guys will fuck me. That's not enough.
Yeah,
Life is so much more than that, we only really understand what's real quick. This bit, we only really understand what is possible when we see it happening in and around us. Not everybody, but most of us are. Yeah, but most of us are heavily impacted. Our images of what is possible is based on what we've seen. Did I see my dad do this? Did I see my mom do this? Did I see the people around me representing whatever this category is?
Precisely. And my whole thing is that you don't need to get that from the Rupert Murdochs of the world, because again, if you look at who controls the media, it's a very small conglomerate. I'm saying look to your community, and I'm saying I think a lot of people, especially no, it's not bootstrapping. It's not bootstrapping, because again, I'm literally limiting this part of the argument to the people that are media literate. So I'm saying that if you're literate, if you understand that this is a thing, the rose-colored glasses are off. The wool is off of the wolf. The sheep's wool is off of the wolf. Like, look at your actual reality and form your ownness of your self-esteem around the reality of your situation. If your reality of that situation is like off, then I get that. That's literally not bootstrapping. Like, that's like, for example, like I'm saying that, like, literally what you're saying is judge your situation based on what you're seeing. All I'm saying is that a lot of people over-index on the media aspect. You literally just said judging on what you see, and you said no. You know,
that wasn't a proclamation of what you should do. That was what I was saying. People already do all of the imagery around them. I'm not saying you should.
Fair semantic argument. What people do is judge it based on what they see. What I'm saying is that people are over-indexing on the sanitized media image, which has an agenda, and not their actual lived reality experience. I'm saying that if you have the media literacy to understand that the media is bullshit in that regard, then what else do you base it off of? If per you, people base it off of what they see, I'm saying base it off your reality. And again, I did boil it down to like fucking, because that was the I thought the theme of the episode of being crass. But again, you can do that shit in anything. Yeah. You could do that shit for anything. Relationships you see around you, like the fact that, you know, like
when it comes down to sorry, Josh, I know you got a thing to say. Do you want to hop in?
Yeah, like,
because otherwise I'm just going. Yeah,
I honestly feel like it takes a combination of both things that y'all are saying. One, like, yes, we do need like media reform, like to actually show like what real positive bodies look like. We do need media reform, but at the same time, you cannot rely on the government or some movement that hasn't happened yet to shape your life, because that just seems it's a bit of a victim mentality. Like, you feel like you don't have any control over something, or even that there's people who receive compliments but they don't take them. So you have to build yourself up, and like on the highest playing field, like when you grow and evolve as a person, as a human being, that's one of the things. Like, you become more self-aware, you become more confident. Now, of course, media does play a role in that, but I still believe that you also have a responsibility to yourself to genuinely love yourself, become aware of things like AB is saying. And it's also kind of like there's this like Darwinian approach to it. Like survival of the fittest. Like, if you don't realize these things at some point in your own life, then you're going to suffer even more.
See, my problem with this, and the reason that I called it as and still view it as a bootstrapping style argument, is that a lot of these conversations about like personal accountability and like make your bed and, you know, improve your life and 1% incremental, those kinds style of argument, and what I think ties them together is, sure, as an individual or as millions of individuals, you should take care of yourself by figuring out how to live your individual best life. My problem is when we use that as an excuse to move the onus away from these like larger structures. Like, yeah, look, if you're having a trouble feeding your baby, you should get 2 jobs. Does that mean that like wage reform doesn't need to happen? No. Like, yes, if you're not seeing black people portrayed as scientists in media, you need to look for that imagery in your own community. Yes. Does that absolve anybody of anything? No. And I think that continues for all of these kinds of situations that we're talking about. In this one, for instance, I'm thinking, yeah, sure, of course, you as an individual should look for media literacy to find your self-esteem, to be able to find beauty in your body, to be able to find neutrality in your body, even if you're constantly bombarded with imagery. But pretending like that takes the onus off of media production companies that are making the... I think we also really fucking underestimate how much media people are consuming versus how much outside imagery they're consuming. The average person doesn't know a single fucking scientist, all right? If there's a little black girl who's like, what can I do in the world? What imagery am I going to look for? And you're saying, well, the onus should be on her to find a fucking scientist who's a lady that she can. It's like, no, man, that's going to be, you're probably going to see that in media first. And the impact that media reform has is larger and more effective and actually leads that individual change more than individual change does. It's like the recycling shit too, man. Like, you can recycle as much as you fucking want. At the end of the day, it's the corporations. And yes, we should take personal responsibility. That does not absolve that the majority of this shit is on the 12 rich motherfuckers who are making just tons and tons and tons of content.
Yeah. So one, I want to say that I agree with your larger point. We weren't talking about your larger point. Like, I think that science is a lot different than who you're fucking. And again, I was talking about who you're fucking.
You know, but I know we had this
larger
issue.
point.
Yeah.
Larger point stands fine. Second, I don't think that it's a bootstrapping argument because I'm literally talking about the people who already have their laces tied. I'm not saying that like the nigga who like.
That sounds like some cold shit though.
It sounded good, but I didn't know what it meant. Yeah. It sounded real. It was a bar, but.
It's the motherfuckers whose laces are tied. I said that if you have media literacy, if you're aware that the media is doing this, then you probably can insulate yourself to a extremely high degree to the point of potentially approaching elimination for what the media messages are saying. That's what I said. So I don't think everybody has that. I don't think everybody has that. I don't think a lot of people. I don't think the majority of the people have it. I think enough people have it to be a relevant topic.
Sure, but the reason I think it's still a bit bootstrappy is just that one, well, yeah, I don't know that media literacy can bring media effect as close to zero as you're implying. I think people who are film critics, people who are filmmakers, people who are, essayists about film who break it down are still massively, massively impacted in terms of the way they view the world by media. I don't think it ever gets to zero.
Which is fair. It's still not a bootstrappy argument. That's like saying that doctors.
No. I mean,
doctors that have diabetes are bootstrapped. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
No. Okay, that's fair. I had more to what my general point was. So, like, one, I think it's inaccurate to say you can get it to zero. So I think that's the inaccurate part of it being bootstrappy, which is that it's unrealistic. So I think that's part of what it is to say something is bootstrappy. That it's a solution that doesn't actually work. That's what that first part is establishing.
Bootstrapping means, but. I can agree to it. That's not what bootstrapping means, but I can agree with you.
Okay.
Point taken.
The other bit is when you say that, I think that a lot of the language that you were using implies that the onus is on the individual. Not that there is a solution that lies with the individual, but that the onus is on the individual. And that is a bootstrap argument.
It's not bootstrappy if you have straps. So what makes something bootstrappy is if I'm saying you should do something and you don't have any of the resources to do it.
Okay,
I said in the that's what bootstrappy means.
Let's back
I'm literally limiting this to people with the tools.
For sure. Let's back up and like just define the word, because I think we're fucking up because we're talking about two different things when we're using the word. I may be using it more metaphorically. Like when I'm saying bootstrapping, fuck the word. Let me get rid of it. Yeah. I'm talking about a like Carnegie self-improvement style argument, which some people will be capable of achieving, some people will not be capable of achieving, but either way distracts us from the larger systematic causes. So fuck the term bootstrapping. Let's just toss that out. What I'm talking about is
it's a trigger word for me because like
I got you. So we toss it out. We're not using it. We're not even talking about that. Let's just talk about what we're talking about. Yeah. If I say, hey, wages in this country are not high enough for people to be able to survive on the minimum wage. If you make an argument that is in the form of, hey, you should get 2 jobs, I don't disagree if your goal is to survive. Some people are not going to be able to get 2 jobs. Some people are, and for them, that's a good thing to do. Neither of those two truths makes it that we shouldn't increase the minimum wage. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. That's the structure I'm talking about. Fuck the word, but yeah.
Yeah, which is fair. And what you just said would be bootstrappy. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you are a person that's well educated. You have 2 college degrees. You make $250,000 a year. You own your house. You have plenty of money in the bank. I'm saying that if you're sick, go to the doctor. That's not bootstrappy. I'm saying that you have straps, use them. We're talking about 2 different things. Like what you just said was a bootstrapping argument. That's literally not what I'm saying. I'm saying that everything that I just said right there, everything what I just said right there is the resources, right? I said that you have the resources because I said you have the media literacy. I'm saying use it.
My point was, and in the example that I gave there, some people can get
Which is
two
fair.
jobs. Some people can get two jobs. Yes, some people can do what you're saying. That does not remove the responsibility from the larger structure, which is my only point.
But again, which is fine. But everything that you said going up to that is like a lack of resources, which is why I can't do that. I'm saying that you have the resources, so
no. If we want to do it. I'm literally talking about the people who can.
Okay.
Let's
because we're playing a semantic game here. We're playing a semantic game here. I'm saying that you can get what you want without changing shit about your life, just doing it. Like, you have the resources. You don't have to go find additional resources, because getting two jobs is getting additional resources in order to execute something.
That's.
I'm saying that you have the knowledge, you have the know-how, you have the money. You just do it. That's not a bootstrapping argument.
I think you're misunderstanding.
I'm understanding everything you're saying.
Those two things. I don't think so, because I'm saying. Maybe it seems like you're getting wrapped.
I think you're trying to say that it's a bootstrapping argument, and I'm saying it's not a bootstrapping argument, and you're trying to recontextualize what a bootstrapping argument is, when I'm literally saying that it's not.
Toss that term out a million years
and
ago.
Then you describe the term. And then you describe the term.
I described it. Yeah, okay. And I think that it still applies here, which is that some people do have the resources to do the problem solution, whatever that is. Two jobs, whatever. Fuck that. If that is hard to draw the parallel there.
It's not. Yeah, but two jobs is getting additional resources. That means you need resources that you don't have.
Which is fine. Which is fine. The point is not whether or not you're getting a thing. Some people can do the thing, right? Some people can get the media literacy and then pick whatever the fuck example you want to have of people being able to already have whatever the resource is. That does not preclude the larger system's responsibility. That's it. Fuck the specific example if that makes it hard to draw the parallel.
And my whole thing in initial was that, like, you need people to have that awareness to push the agenda, which is what I said initially, because you said that people can do it in mass. I said that you need people in mass to push the agenda, which requires media literacy. And then I said, of that cadre of people that have to push the agenda, those people with the tools, i.e. the people that are not bootstrapping because they already have the resources, those people do have an onus to themselves to utilize their resources to better themselves in the realm to make themselves better. That's not bootstrapping.
It's not a lot of people either, but I just feel like you need. I still feel like it's a combination of both. Like, you can't have one without the other, because you can't enforce change if people don't want change or aren't aware of the change that needs to happen. So you have to have some level of awareness. And then the media also, and Eddie, I completely agree with Eddie. Like, you're a lot more inclined to believe a thing and believe something is possible for you if you actually see representation of it. That's why we push so hard for representation in, like, movies, plays, or just different fields and whatnot. So, but you need both things, because at the end of the day, still, to reaching your higher self, or like on that path to becoming just aware, that also does kind of come with like a self-love. And you can't always just sit around and wait for some shit to happen, or just wait for the media to change for your own personal betterment. So it's a combination of the two, I believe.
Hey, I think we all did our best there, and that's a good summation. So let's say this one. Look, if if you see the media and or your self-esteem not giving a good image of what you think you could be in your life, you might be seeing a red flag. But if you on Channel 4 with your dick out in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds, it might be you just waving the red flag.
Literally.
So waving the red flag pot. Literally?
He was waving his dick. His dick was a red flag.
Literally. I guess if he was a white guy, I guess it was a pink flag, I suppose. It's been Eddie. It's been Alvin. It's been Josh. Let us know what you think about everything that we said this episode. Join us on Patreon if you want to join in on the lives. If you want to get bonus content, we do a bonus episode every single week. If you want access to the Discord, subscribe, hit the bell. You know what I'm saying? So you know when the new video comes out. And we'll see y'all next week. That's it. That's the show. Go to bed.
Go to bed. Go to night. Go night night. We ain't get to a lot of topics.
That's just how good we are. We milk them shits. Yeah. Like almonds. All right.
Drop the beat.
It's a red flag.